Hi, I'm Bob Balch with the That's Jesus channel. This is episode 18 of the Why I Left the Church of Christ series. Now, episode 17 actually had 4 parts, so that's 4 videos, but this is episode 18. Now, just to let you know, I spent more than 40 years inside the churches of Christ, not as a critic, but as a believer. And I taught classes, I led singing, I defended the faith as I understood it. And when I finally left, it wasn't because someone talked me out of being in the Church of Christ. It was because I just couldn't make the Bible say what my tradition needed it to say anymore. So this episode is about one of the most powerful ideas that I was ever given inside that tradition. Now, just to let you know, on Facebook, there were a couple of Facebook groups about the Church of Christ and that I participated in. And whenever we would discuss things, I mean, it was a regular thing for people to say, well, we know that we're right because there's so few of us. Um, it really kind of caught me off guard until I remembered, yeah, that's how I used to think of things. And this wasn't a doctrine exactly, right? It was more like a lens, right? A way of reading everything and scripture and the world and other Christians and ourselves. And once I saw how it worked, though, I realized that it had been shaping me for decades without my permission as I looked back on things from these Facebook groups. And so the idea is this: the faithful have always been few. And if you're few, that means that you're probably right. So, just a word of warning here, not every Church of Christ teaches what I'm about to describe. Not every member thinks this way. Churches of Christ are autonomous. Some congregations are genuinely open and generous in their fellowship. I'm not describing them, right? I am. That's not the theology of the tradition that I was raised in. The one that I absorbed and the psychological effect that it had on me and the people around me is what I'm going to be talking about. So my goal is not to condemn anyone. My goal is for people to place their eternal faith in Jesus and not in a system, not in a tradition, and not in the comfort of being a small and embattled group. So I want to tell you about a specific book because it says out loud what a lot of people in the churches of Christ quietly believe. It's from this guy named John Waddey. He's a Church of Christ minister who preached for about 55 years in Mississippi, and Colorado, and Tennessee, and Arizona. He served as a preacher of the West Bell Road Church of Christ in Surprise, Arizona, and he published a monthly paper called Christianity Then and Now, which he mailed to leaders of thousands of congregations, I think. He was a debater, an author, and one of the most vocal defenders of traditional or old school churches of Christ doctrine in the late 20th and early 21st century. He died in 2014, unfortunately, sadly. One of his books is called Lessons to Fortify Your Faith in the Day of a Changing Church. Now, you can get this book, it's free. It's a collection of short essays. Each one is about a page long. It's written as a weekly lessons for the Church of Christ to help members resist what Waddey called the change movement. And the book was published at the Church of Christ at 12213 West Bell Road in Surprise, Arizona. We'll spend several weeks walking through this entire book later in this series. But today I'm just going to focus on one chapter. It's chapter 14, and it's called God's Remnant. And it taught me something that I didn't learn the first time that it taught me something that I really had not thought of before. I only kind of understood it years later after I had left and looked back on this and said, that is what I thought, but goodness, is that really what I thought? Right? So Waddey's argument in chapter 14 is straightforward. He points to scripture and he says, God has always had a faithful few. Noah and his family, 8 souls. Lot and his daughters fleeing Sodom. Out of all the adult Hebrews who left Egypt, only Joshua and Caleb entered the promised land. In Elijah's day, God only had 7,000 who had not bowed to Baal. Isaiah said the faithful were a very small remnant. Jesus himself said that the gate was narrow and few find it. So Waddey then applies this to the present day. And he says, Paul said there is a remnant according to the election of grace. The faithful few have always carried the cause of Christ forward, and Waddey draws a practical conclusion from all of this, that a large church is not necessarily a faithful church. The majority of people believing a certain doctrine is not proof that that doctrine is acceptable to God. Now, I want to be fair, on the surface, some of that's true, right? The Bible does talk about a remnant. Jesus did say the way is narrow. Numbers alone don't determine what truth is. If they did, the Pharisees were right and Jesus was wrong, but that's not the case. But here's where it gets kind of off kilter, because Waddey isn't making an abstract theological point. He's writing to Church of Christ members who are watching their numbers shrink, and the Church of Christ has been shrinking for decades. They're watching people leave. They're watching other churches grow, and he's telling that's fine. He's telling them that's fine. That's expected. That's what faithfulness looks like. I need to be honest about what this idea does inside of people, because I didn't hear this from Waddey's book. I got it from the air. It was what I grew up in, right? That we are the faithful few. In the non-institutional churches of Christ, especially, we're only like 10% of the churches of Christ global. So growing up in that Church of Christ, we were a small group inside an already small group. We were the remnant of the remnant, right? And we wore it like a badge, right? When someone pointed out how few of us there were, well, the answer was, of course we're few, we're faithful, right? So the narrow way has always been underpopulated. The wide road is the one with the crowds. So when a big Baptist church down the road is growing, we didn't ask what they were doing right. We just assumed that they were doing something wrong because they were growing. Growth was suspicious. Popularity was a warning sign. If everybody agrees with you, you're probably compromising. That's the unwritten kind of understanding. So when people left a congregation, when they left the Church of Christ altogether, we didn't really ask why. We already knew why. They couldn't handle the truth, right? They wanted an easier road. They were drawn away by the world. The departure of others was not evidence that something was wrong with us. It was evidence that we were right, because the faithful have always been few. So do you see the loop? Smallness proves faithfulness. Growth proves compromise. Criticism proves persecution. Agreement from outsiders proves that you've gone soft. Disagreement from outsiders proves that you're standing firm. There's no outcome that can challenge the system, because every outcome has already been interpreted in advance. If it doesn't look good, of course it's good, because we're the few, right? So this is what makes remnant theology so powerful and so dangerous. It builds a framework where self-correction becomes almost impossible. If people are leaving, you can't correct what's wrong, because their leaving says that you must be right. Think about what it would take to convince someone inside the system that something was wrong. If you bring evidence from outside the tradition, it's dismissed. Those people aren't part of the remnant. So what do they know? If you point to the opinions of scholars or theologians or historians, well, that's just the wisdom of men, not the wisdom of God. What do they know? If you point to the sheer number of Christians across the world who disagree with a particular Church of Christ position, that's the point. The majority is wrong. It's usually wrong. And if someone inside the tradition raises a question, a sincere, honest, scripture-driven question, well, they're no longer inside the tradition, right? They become a change agent. They've been influenced. They have drifted. They're a brother in error. Now their opinion doesn't count anymore, because they're not really part of the faithful few anymore. Waddey's own book is a case study for this pattern. He calls people who disagree with him agents of change. He compares them to apostates. He says the winds of change are blowing gale force across the churches of Christ, and he calls faithful members to resist. And in his book, he warns that those promoting change are apostates, kin to those that Paul warned would depart from the faith. That's not the language of someone who's open to correction. That's the language of someone who's already decided that anyone who disagrees is on the wrong side. And I have to tell you about Mr. Waddey. I never met him. I didn't know about him until I found this book. I can tell you right now, not a bad person. He's just simply putting into a written format the culture that is the old school churches of Christ. And I appreciate him doing that so that we can have a writing to look at and to debate and discuss. So I say that with a genuine respect for his sincerity. I think he believed every word of what he wrote. I think he loved the church, but sincerity is not the same thing as accuracy. Okay. And a system that cannot be questioned from inside, that's a system that will never fix what's broken. So here's what I had to wrestle with after I left the Church of Christ. Does the Bible talk about a remnant? Yes, it does. It absolutely does. But what does that remnant look like in the New Testament? Well, in Romans chapter 11, verse 5, Paul says there is a remnant according to the election of grace. But Paul, when he says that, is talking about Jewish believers who have come to faith in Jesus. He's not talking about a specific denomination that got its doctrine right. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. He's not talking about a specific brotherhood that got its doctrine right. He's talking about a people who responded to God's grace. They responded to God's grace, not correct theology. They responded to God's grace, not proper worship procedures, not the right name on the building. They responded to God's grace. And in Revelation chapter 7, verse 9, John sees the throne of God. It's surrounded by a great multitude that no one could count. No one could count it, from every nation and tribe and people and language. That's what the end of the story is. The remnant doesn't stay small. It grows into something that no one can number. The narrow gate leads to an uncountable crowd. The remnant in Scripture is not defined by being small. It's defined by trusting God when the majority turns away. And there's a world of difference between those two things, right? One is a description of faithfulness under pressure. The other is a theology that turns smallness into your identity and then defends that identity against anyone who threatens it, including God's own correction. So if you're in the churches of Christ and you've been taught that your smallness is proof of your faithfulness, I'm not asking you to abandon that instinct entirely. There are times when standing firm in a minority position is exactly what faithfulness looks like. It's exactly what it requires. The prophets did it. Jesus did it. The early church did it. But I'm asking you to test the framework. Ask yourself, is there any evidence that could make me reconsider? Is there any voice that I would listen to? Is there any outcome? Shrinking numbers, departing members, testimony of other believers. Is there any outcome that I would treat as a signal rather than a threat? If the answer is no to all of those questions, if the answer is there is nothing that anyone could say, there's nothing that anyone could point to, there's nothing that anyone could have me read, there is nothing that could make me question anything about what I already believe, then you're not standing on conviction. You are standing in a closed loop. and closed loops do not produce faithfulness. They produce isolation. If you're outside the Church of Christ, this pattern is not unique to them. Any group can fall into it. Any tradition can mistake its smallness for its righteousness. The test is always the same. Can your community be corrected? Is there a mechanism for honest self-examination, or has the system been built so that every challenge only reinforces the walls? Jesus is not honored by a theology that makes him impossible to hear. He came to a people who were absolutely certain that they were God's faithful remnant. And most of them could not recognize him when he was standing right in front of them. That should scare every single one of us, not because we're Pharisees, but because the Pharisees were also sure that they had it right, right? And that's one of the reasons why I left. So thanks so much for listening to this episode. If it touched you, if it was something that you want to share with others, go on ahead and give it a like, thumbs up, share it with whoever you want to. I really do appreciate you tuning in. I'm Bob Balch with the That's Jesus channel. Have a great day and be blessed.